I'm Anne Marie Battistone, and welcome back to State and Local. You're watching Norfolk Public Access, and I'm very pleased to have a candidate from the Norfolk-Bristol County. Have I got that right?
Norfolk, Bristol, Middlesex Senate District.
Oh, good Lord, all these titles. There's the third this and that and the other one. Apologies.
No problem.
And she has a primary this fall, and she's going to be, if she prevails at the primary, she's going to be running against Richard Ross, who is the present state senator. So I was very pleased to have Sara-Lynn Reynolds, who's with us today. Sara-Lynn, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. Now, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've done in the past, your education.
Well, simply in a nutshell, I grew up and was raised in North Attleboro, where I went to public schools there. I graduated from North Attleboro High School, went on to UMass Amherst, where I received my degree in health education. I came back from UMass Amherst and taught at the junior high school in North Attleboro and coached at the high school and junior high school level.
Now, what did you coach?
I coached basketball, field hockey, and softball.
Oh,
I loved it.
That's quite a variety.
It was a variety, but I was an athlete myself. I loved all sports. I really enjoyed being a coach with the kids. I think that that's where you actually have an opportunity to instill some team spirit with them, and by team spirit I mean learning how to work with one another. That you don't have to be the best athlete on the squad. You just have to know what your role is and help a group of people get to the desired result, which is to win, actually. But winning isn't everything. There's so much more to it.
Now, as a former coach, what do you think about this move to, I understand there's situations where if a team is doing too well, they may have to have them back off, or I know I've been hearing about this sort of trying to mitigate embarrassment or results and embarrassment and self-esteem and all that. What do you think about that?
As a coach, a mom, a friend, that has had opportunities to be in that kind of field, I think you have to let your children know that you can't win at everything.
That's right. Absolutely.
What really is important is the fact that you got out there, that you tried.
Did the best you could.
You did the best you could. Sometimes the best doesn't do it even. Sometimes, there's mitigating factors that make it not happen, but you come back and you try again. So I think the children need to know that losing does not mean you're a loser. And so
that's right.
I'm not a big fan of making everyone a winner or everyone the top.
It becomes meaningless.
Yes, it becomes meaningless. And there are some people that are just talented, and that's what they're good at. But you may be really great at something they're not good at, and they're not going to win that award.
Exactly.
You might be the best engineer. That person is not necessarily going to be, that's the best athlete, going to maybe be the best engineer.
Right.
So you need to find what is great for you, what works for you. Although I'm definitely not a fan of parents being out there screaming like maniacs, or parents being out there making their child feel small because maybe he made a mistake. So yeah, everyone can't win a particular thing, but what you give in effort is really what matters the most to me. Yeah.
Now, is this your first foray into politics? And I wanted to ask you why you were going to go for this seat, because of course Dooley is coming up to be reelected as a state rep, and but the districts, of course, don't match up.
They don't.
What
they don't. So
it's
I
very
know it gets
confusing,
crazy.
too.
So I was a city councilor in Attleboro, and. While I was there, actually before I ran for city council, someone had suggested to me, why don't you run for state representative? But I have lived in that district for a long time, and the people that were in there as a state rep, even though we weren't in the same party, I had known that gentleman for a really long time, and so I was not considering a run against him. So I ran for city council. I did win. And that was a great thing. I cut my teeth just that one term, 2 years, the last 2 years, 2012 and 2013, and then I made this decision to run for the state Senate. The Senate district, this Norfolk, Bristol, Middlesex, I know, runs it's 12 towns. It runs all the way from Attleboro, and only half of Attleboro. So it runs from Attleboro all the way up to Wayland, and then east through Wellesley and Needham as well. So it's 12 towns. I decided to run for the Senate because several people approached me to do so. I gave it some thought, and I don't mind jumping into the fray. I know enough about politics. I've always been involved on the peripheral level because, of course, raising a family, working, doing all the things that you have to do besides that didn't leave really an open opportunity for me to run full-time, and now I can.
Do you feel it's a vulnerable seat?
I don't like to suggest everybody's vulnerable. We're all vulnerable based on some decisions that we might make. Maybe they weren't the right one. Maybe you've aggravated someone. I mean, we're talking about 160,000 people. They're either going to like what you say, like who you are, be tired of someone that's been in there. But nonetheless, all of us, whether you've been an incumbent or you make a decision to run, you put yourself out there. And so I think that people recognize that. I would like to think that they do. And if they're ready to remove you from the seat, they have their reasons. Either they don't think you're doing the job, or they think you've been there long enough and they're looking for something new. So in my case, I hope everyone's looking for something new at this particular moment.
Now you are a Democrat, but what do you feel are the ramifications of essentially a one-party state? I know with the probation hearing, the probation court case that came down and the indictments and so forth. Of course, DeLeo was mentioned, but he was never indicted, which is kind of interesting. Brad Jones, whom a lot of people are not thrilled with particularly, but he was saying, well, if it weren't such a skewed legislature, this wouldn't have been as easy. But what do you think about that?
I guess it goes back to the, obviously I'm not a fan. There is, and I think, I think people keep voting in Democrats, but maybe, and you could say the same, I would think that if you look around, some of our Democrats lean very much to the left, and they are very progressive, and some of our Democrats lean almost to the right. They actually vote even more so towards the Republicans. So even though they call themselves a Democrat, we have all kinds of people up there at the State House. I think that having a one-party state is like having a monopoly. It doesn't necessarily work that way. But what you have to, I wouldn't even mind having something similar to what California, you actually vote for the person that you want. They can be a Democrat, an independent, a liberal, and those two people, whomever come out at the top, they could end up being two Republicans. It could be two Democrats. People actually, I think, no matter what party they are, they try to listen to what people are saying, that person that's running is saying. I know I did. And what you want to do is vote.
You were an independent for a while.
For a while, I was an independent. I came out of high school as a Democrat. I went back to the Independent Party for basically the same reason so many in the state are. Look we have 2.5 million independents now. And that tells you something. That tells you that people don't feel that they're being heard either as a Democrat or as a Republican. And that's what I felt like myself too. So I went independent for a while. I went back to being a Democrat because I am socially liberal. I think like most people, my views around money are conservative in that as a taxpayer, I want to know where my money is going.
Yes.
I want to know that when you start a program that it's working and that I can say, oh wow, here are the results. So that's okay. If it's not working, I want us to look at it, stop wasting taxpayer money. It doesn't mean you have to cancel the whole program out, but it does mean that you have to look at it and restructure it so that we know we're getting identifiable results at the end.
Well, of course, some people point to Deval Patrick on this business with the crime lab debacle. Now, obviously, her supervisor was in charge initially, but people do look at the whole picture. I mean, there was also the business of the compounding, and that was also a state run, and of course the business with the crime lab is going to cost a fortune because of all those people that were let out or now are going to be retried, and some have already committed crimes all over again, and Do you think that pointed to to Deval Patrick as well as all the people in between that let that happen?
You know, I think
Because it was kind of ridiculous.
It actually was beyond ridiculous. It was terrible that
Well,
it actually
clearly.
occurred. Clearly,
Because it went on for quite some time that she was
and
producing this
unnoticed.
huge amount of results, testing the.
Unnoticed. So, I mean, I think I would have to suggest that the system of hierarchy and who was supposed to be observing and watching others did not do the right job. They just didn't do the right thing. And that's human error in doing that. So I guess it always ultimately goes to the top person. You are the top person. So, but it could have happened. I wouldn't just point at Deval Patrick. I'd point at all the intermediate
true.
steps in
That's
between, because everybody had a job to do and somebody let that job fall through. It's unfortunate that once again what happened is because someone was not following through and all of what should have been happening was not occurring, and this woman continued to do what she was doing.
Exactly.
It's costing, again, the taxpayer money.
Oh,
the
tremendous.
person that had nothing to do with it, that counts on the system to work properly and have identifiable results. And so that you would have found her to be in non-compliance before it got this far. So why that didn't occur, I think those people that were in charge have to really consider who missed the boat and how it trickled down that way.
It's not just the money; it's the danger of
Of
these,
course.
you know, or people that were wrongly accused on the other side of them.
Of course, and so it's a debacle that hopefully now, you know, the thing that drives me nuts sometimes, and you know, you can understand it happening once in a while, but it's that it gets so far we're not proactive, you know, we reactive, and I think that there are probably systems in place and they're not being followed. And that's the fault of the people that we put in charge to make that happen, and somehow they get off track and don't do it, and they're the people we need to hold accountable. Those are the people in those jobs.
Now, I went on your campaign website, and of course we'll put that up so everybody can go to it. And,
Thank you.
And you had an article. I thought it was very, very well done. All the links that you had to different articles.
Thank you.
I really thought that was quite. And I saw it over on the right-hand side, and I thought, oh, gee, this is all. And there was an article there by I can't think of her name now, Ms. Rooney. What's her first name?
Oh, oh God! Now you have to ask me. Oh, Emily.
Emily, about the DCF situation. It seemed like she was, you know, faulting the leadership, but also talking about the parenting. And I mean, don't you feel that, or do you feel that some of this kind of very lenient attitude about parenting, what's acceptable in terms of births out of wedlock, people making excuses, this, that, and the other. I mean, where do you feel that comes from? And of course, the DCF is there because you have these
issues
of and these teen, you know. And I was a little unclear as to her position. I thought maybe you could clarify that in terms of how you felt about it, because you put that on your website.
Yes.
I mean, she seemed like she was talking about there were two sides to it.
I think there's first of all, I always think there's two sides, and no one's going to really agree with everything that maybe I believe in or that you believe in or our neighbors, even family. I mean, my own family, you know, I'm the second oldest of 8 children, so believe me, I understand disagreements. You know, that's what I grew up with. Everybody had an opinion, everybody has a different personality. So I think that with Emily Rooney, I know it was a great household, let me tell you. I would say with Emily Rooney and what she suggests is that yes, there are, again, it goes back to there's systems in place and we didn't follow them. And so we ended up here. But also, having been in the Department of Public Health and having worked for the Mass Department of Public Health, yes, for many years I worked as a regional field manager for all of southeastern Mass, and I worked during the time of tobacco control.
Yes.
And so I was the person that managed the southeastern portion of the state.
And what does that entail?
It entailed being, the
and
tobacco
then
control is
sales
when we were trying
to minors,
stop sales to minors, bring smoking out of the, enclosed areas, public buildings, places that, in fact, Attleboro was the first city to, because that's where I was originally stationed, was the first city to go smoke-free.
Is that so?
Yeah, so we were the first one to put in a policy, which I'm proud of now,
Well,
although I have to
people say,
admit,
"Oh, it's
people didn't like
Cambridge,"
me back then. You know, definitely were horrified. And
of course, it's a class issue too, isn't it, smoking?
I don't know if I want to call it a class issue. I mean, I know lots of people, no matter where they grew up, how much money they have, no matter where they are in their state of life, are smoking because it's a habit. It's just a habit. And, you know, there's a lot of peer pressure in high school, college. I think that's kind of changed. We've gone from when I was in high school, you know, and I was a non-smoker, but again, in my family, everyone smoked but me. So there were
She was the
10
athlete.
people in the household, yeah, and
My
everyone
dad smoked.
Yeah, it's everyone in my household smoked. So I mean, really considering how much I must have breathed in on a daily basis, you know, so I just say to myself, it was a health issue for me. I always was concerned about health. I used to say, geez, would you run into a burning building without a mask on? You know, if you didn't have to, and yet you're smoking and you're sucking all that in, and you're, you know, my mother to this day says, oh, I can't believe it. You know, when I was pregnant, I smoked and I blew it in your face while I was feeding you. You know, I mean, she says,
Well,
think
you must
about
be a very
that.
hardy soul.
We must, because I'm still healthy, but you have to work at it. But I do think that people were not aware of it, and we were told numerous amounts of lies, and that's what bothers me about some of the big monopolies and the huge companies that kind of have the money into the system, and we legislate in their favor rather than really what's best for the general public. And I think you asked me a question.
What
Now we
about
got
the
off the track.
DCF?
So the DCF. So as far as DCF, I firmly believe that these workers are underfunded. The area of DCF is underfunded. We don't have enough social workers. The social workers that I know work really, really hard. But there is no way that one social worker, same as nurses, should have more than they're capable of taking care of. You know, nurses are responsible for flipping patients 5, 10, so many a day that it was ridiculous. How can you do that? You're one person. You have no one helping you. It's the same to me in the social workers field. You cannot be responsible for 25 family units. You just can't. You know, and the other thing that I think Emily Rooney was suggesting, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, is that DCF, the way it's structured now, is going out there trying to protect the child or the family unit, and yet at the same time they're trying to keep that unit together. Those are two different issues. And you know, there's times you cannot keep a unit together.
Absolutely.
You know, and by doing that, we've put ourselves in this kind of predicament, which I think is unfair to people that maybe don't have any parenting skills to begin with. You know.
Now, what was your opinion of the whole Justina Pelletier situation? That was
Again, terrible. I followed it. I think it was horrible for the parents. Whether DCF
you know, they were never
overreacted.
indicted. They were never charged, despite of all the
No,
talk.
they
Connecticut
weren't.
didn't charge them, nor did Massachusetts charge them.
Another fault in the system. Again, human error. When human error gets involved, the courts get involved. Just because it's the courts doesn't mean they're always right.
Oh, God, no.
You know, I mean, they're still human, and so they make mistakes too. I can't imagine what those parents felt. It seems like she's doing much better now that she's back, or thinking, you know, that all of that has been turned around.
Astonishing. I mean, she just declined.
I know, it is
And
amazing.
what a lot of people found out at the time, that I couldn't really believe it, but it was too many. It was reported too many places, and it was not refuted that when you're a ward of the state, maybe experiment is too strong a word, but they can do all sorts of trials and involve you. And a lot of people wondered the fact that she did have this rather unusual somatoform situation.
Yes.
Or they claimed that she did, that this was somebody that they could, you know, have use in trials and so forth. It's just an astonishing situation.
I think that we could point to situations like that every day, that something happens.
Well, a lot of people came forward about Children's Hospital as well.
So here is, I think, what finally happens, and what I would suggest to any people that are listening, whether you're a voter or you're just a friend or a family member, is to remember that you as a person are greater in numbers than any one legislator, any one hospital, any one of anything. That if people support each other or they think that they are being wrong, that you need to come together as a unit. That's again that team effort that I talk about, that you know what's right, you feel in your heart that you've done nothing wrong, and you know that to be true, then you have to get people to help you fight that larger battle, because no one will hear you otherwise. You can't just sit back and say, I'm not going to do something about it. You have to get up and take a stand, which they did.
Well, of course, Jeff Cooner had that rally, which they said, I was there, they said there was I didn't think there were thousands there, but maybe, but I don't know if that sort of turned the tide. But he, and then a lot of people are disappointed, for example, that Charlie Baker didn't weigh in on that very strongly, nor has he with the, I was going to ask you about that next, with the 1,000 unaccompanied minors coming. He's, and so a lot of people are, I think a lot of people are very and I don't understand why he's putting himself in that situation. Because Mark Fisher's been very proactive on all these things, the driver's licenses, he goes to different fora and meets with people.
Politics is a funny business, Anna Marie, as you know, and I think a lot of politicians try to avoid sometimes the tough questions, or if they do take a stand, they feel that it's what the majority agrees with.
People see through that.
I would have to suggest that that's true. I mean, no matter if my opinion's asked, I might say something. Maybe you won't like it. Maybe someone else won't like it. But once you get elected, whether it's your opinion or not, the thing that you're there for is to represent everyone in the state.
Correct.
And so you have to have your ears open to every opinion, whether it's yours or not yours, and you have to find a way that you can meld that into being advantageous for everyone. So everyone won't get exactly what they want, but they'll get the closest to it. So for me,
but at the same time, I think people want to take a stand, want you to
see
some beliefs.
You have to, definitely. And for me, I mean, if and I think we talked about this briefly, as a mother, having been a school teacher and a coach, and just a humanitarian in general, I cannot even fathom what a parent must be going through to leave a child. I don't care if they're 17 or even 24, or a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, whatever they are, by themselves alone to come into another country. I can't imagine what would possess me to do that with my 2 children. So I, am thankful that I've never been in that position. I think about it and I say, okay, we have to take them in. I could never, ever, ever feel right about myself if we didn't do that. But the most important thing that I think, and again, we briefly talked on this, is that we are never proactive, we're always reactive, and that goes from the local level to the national level. People have been talking about immigration reform for, oh my goodness, as long as I can remember. Yes, and here we are, when it's finally at what everyone thought might happen, and now we're scrambling.
Complete collapse.
When we could have done something incrementally. I mean, we have such a poor immigration system that we force good people just trying to change their life into the underground. We force them underground. We force them into hiding because they're so fearful of being caught. That is not the way you treat people. That's not humane. That's just not correct. And so I think that, it's unfortunate what's happening now, but maybe it will finally light a fire under the people that should have been doing something for all these years.
Well, every sovereign nation maintains its border, and that's why, of course, Mexico is so complicit in this, because my understanding is that they do not fool around on that border. I mean, people coming in from Guatemala or Nicaragua or Honduras, that they do not allow, they simply do not allow it. And of course now, Governor Perry, I don't know whether he's going to be sued, but he's called in the...
I saw that this morning.
Because, I mean, he has people that he has to protect, as well. Now, would you have been more in favor of like a guest worker type of thing where people could come and go and there wouldn't be amnesty, but they would have a work permit, sort of the way they do in Germany?
I would always be very thoughtful into, I come from an immigrant background, Irish background. So I remember my grandfather telling me stories about my great-grandfather and the negativity that faced him when they got to this country. and how hard they worked. And back then, the Irish women were similar to what's happening now. You know, they cleaned homes, they were nannies,
Yep.
they were cooks and whatnot. And the men were laborers. They were laborers, and they were abused and used and everything. So, you know, I come from an understanding of trying to let people get into this country without being fearful and helping them work through the system. So until we make that happen again, where you can come in here and work through the system, and see, here's one of the things that always strangulates what I think is going on. We're willing to take their money, their taxes, but the thing to me that should be the most important thing about coming into a country is your right to vote. We're always complaining that people in the United States don't vote. They have an opportunity to vote and they don't vote. Why don't they vote? Why don't they vote? And why are we saying, it is terrible, but so why are we saying to immigrants even, we'll take your money, but we won't let you vote? What does that say about voting? Like it's not important, that money's more important. But in actuality, voting is important, to be able to say, look at this, this could be your country too, and shouldn't you consider what everybody else is considering? What is going on in their mind? What is going on in the people that are already here? But again, from an immigrant's point of view, I remember my grandfather saying that. Oh my God, you know, you were frightened all the time. You know, you were.
And of course, there was no welfare. There was none of this EBT or any of that. People had to take care of themselves.
You lived in poverty. You lived with families united in a triple-decker.
And in those neighborhoods.
In those neighborhoods where your people lived, if you will.
Where did your parents grow up? Your father that you're referencing?
My grandfather, actually, he was probably around 4 or 5 when he came here from Ireland, but his father was, you know, obviously like around 30 years old. My father grew up in Rhode Island, and my mother grew up in the North Attleboro area, but her father was from Canada. He was French-Canadian. Wow. So, you know, I mean, so my whole background is around immigration, you know. So
would you would favor amnesty then, or you?
I would favor us looking at, first of all, what can be afforded here in the country. You know, we are not even taking care of people that actually live here properly.
Oh, that's right, born here.
You know, born here, raised here, not even taking care of them right.
Exactly.
So we need to look at that collectively, a whole picture of what is happening to the people that, and it's not, you know, I hear this all the time. Oh, they're lazy. They don't want to work. This person doesn't do that. But I know lots of people that are struggling to find jobs. They do work. They don't make enough. They can't possibly work enough hours and make enough money to live with either a husband and wife and even kids. You know, so it's our own people. It's the immigrants. You know, I might favor some form of amnesty. If you have been here in this country, seriously, you've been here, you have never done anything wrong. You're a good working person, good family person, you're a great neighbor. I do not relish the thought of ever kicking someone out for being a good person. Now, if you are I mean, look at, we have put up with what I say the banking system has done to this country. And none of those people have to worry about anything. They're still living pretty high off the hog.
Oh, yeah, the bonuses
if
and everything.
any one of us did something small, even small, in that kind of relation, we would be in jail.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet we're talking about people coming to this country for a better life that have not done anything bad. They haven't stolen, they're working hard, working incredibly hard. So I say we ought to change the system to punish people that really deserve to be punished, and find a system that works for the multitudes of people that do the right thing on a daily basis.
Well, we can close on that because we run out of time, but thank you so much for coming on.
Already we're done.
I know, isn't that something down to a minute?
Wonderful.
My guest has been Sara-Lynn Reynolds. I'm going to let her say what the Senate district is. It was a Bristol, Norfolk, Middlesex
It's Norfolk.
Senate.
It's the Norfolk, Bristol, Middlesex State Senate District, and it does run 12 towns from Attleboro all the way to Wayland.
So thank you again. Thank you for watching State and Local. I was very pleased to have my guest here, candidate for the State Senate. and she's going to be in a primary in September, so please look for her. I'm Anne Marie Battistone. You've been watching Norfolk Public Access. Thank you for watching.